Davante Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders has come under a lot of fire thanks to his comparisons of Aaron Rodgers with Derek Carr. Why were his comments so controversial, and what did Davante have to say about them? In this video, we'll be taking a look at that and a few other related news items. So, without any further ado, let's dive in. First, what did Davante say? In a recent interview with CBS Sports, Davante Adams was talking about the new inclusion of Derek Carr to the Vegas Raiders team by comparing him to his former teammate, the Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. He called Carr a future Hall of Famer and said that whenever you replace a Hall of Famer with another Hall of Famer, there are bound to be problems in the adjustment process. This comparison, of course, did not sit well with much of the internet. Many people were shocked that Davante would compare someone like Derek Carr to an absolute legend like Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers has been the NFL MVP a record 4 times, and Derek Carr hasn't been nearly at the same level as him. People didn't know whether this was a jab at Rodgers' career or undeserved praise towards Carr, but regardless, everyone seemed to agree that Davante was just flat out wrong with his comments. Practically the entire internet was up in arms about the comments. To be fair to Davante, he was merely trying to support his new and most important teammate. At this point, everyone was just waiting for Davante to issue some sort of clarification or justification, and he did. Now, how did Davante respond to the criticism? You're probably wondering how the 29-year-old wide receiver dealt with the criticism surrounding his comments. Did he apologize or did he defend himself? Well, it seems to be the latter. He said that he was not going to take back anything he said, but he should have been more precise with his wording. He acknowledged the fact that Carr doesn't have exactly the Super Bowl rings or the MVP titles that Rodgers has, but he wasn't directly comparing him to Rodgers, or at least he didn't mean to. Above all else, Davante stuck by his prediction that one day Carr could also have the kind of career that Rodgers had. But as for the comparison, he merely meant that he was generally referring to when a great player replaces another great player. He wasn't trying to target anyone with his comments, and to be honest, if you take a look at Carr's performance this season, it's hard to argue that he wouldn't be a future Hall of Famer. Up next, Aaron Rodgers makes fun of Davante's comments. Even though the internet had a field day making fun of Davante for his comments, it seems like that wasn't enough. Now, Aaron Rodgers himself wants to join in on the fun. At a recent news conference, Rodgers was asked a bunch of questions by journalists, and in the middle of it all, Davante's comments popped up. He jokingly said that he agrees with Davante's comments about it being tough to go from a Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer. After a short pause, he said he meant going from Davante to Allen, and the room erupted in laughter. He also joked that the Packers were now a defensive team in the absence of Adams, and even though it was all lighthearted fun, he really seemed to be going at Davante with no pulled punches. Next, how will Davante's absence affect Rodgers' game? It was a shock to everyone when Davante left the Green Bay Packers to join the Las Vegas Raiders, and it was an even bigger shock to Aaron Rodgers, who went together with Davante like bread and butter. During the last season, Rodgers primarily relied on Adams for most of his touchdowns. The thing is, despite being a back-to-back MVP, many fans are starting to question whether Rodgers' incredible performances were due to his own talent or the incredible teamwork he had with Adams. To add to everyone's woes, Rodgers missed almost all of training in the preseason, choosing to warm up during the main games instead. As for Rodgers, he doesn't seem too worried about Adams' absence, and as we already know, he has already joked about it numerous times. But one has to wonder whether or not these jokes are an attempt at hiding a dire situation. Is Rodgers' near-endless rise going to collapse? Probably not, but will he feel the absence of an amazing wide receiver like Adams? Almost definitely. But for now, it's simply too early to tell what's going to happen next. We'll just have to wait and see until Rodgers plays a few more games and hopefully scores a few more touchdowns. Up next, what are the struggles between Carr and Adams? Most of the backlash surrounding Adams' comments about Carr had to do with the ridiculous comparison he made, but one thing that almost no one focused on was the fact that Davante indicated that he was struggling to adjust to Carr. After all, this is a completely different player when compared to Rodgers, and he's not exactly better than Rodgers in almost any way at all. This is something that fans of Adams have actually worried about a lot since he made the switch to the Raiders. Most people worry that Adams is going to regress, without the help of Rodgers, similar to how many showed the same concern for Rodgers without Davante. But at the same time, it's important to understand that Adams and Carr go way back. In fact, the two are former classmates. They have been playing football together for practically their entire lives, and throughout that time, they formed a close friendship and a deep understanding of each other's games. According to Carr, the Raiders have been trying to pair up the two for 5 years now, so it's clear that they have a plan for him. On top of that, the Raiders might have gotten rid of one of the most formidable duos in the NFL, which was Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. So for now, there's not much to worry about when it comes to Davante's career, especially with the $141 million contract he just signed. Now, let's take a look at some other news. First, Deshaun Watson suspended for 6 games. Perhaps the hottest news in the NFL right now is the fact that Deshaun Watson, the quarterback for the Browns, has just been suspended for a total of 6 games by the NFL. This comes freshly after 2 unnamed women accused Deshaun of misconduct. Deshaun is no stranger to misconduct allegations, as he has personally settled 23 out of a total of 24 misconduct/harassment lawsuits as early as 2021. If the charges hold any ground, Watson could potentially face even more repercussions, such as millions of dollars in fines and over a year of suspension. But as of right now, he has only been accused, which means that he is free to play for the Cleveland Browns on October 23, 2022, when the Browns will play at Baltimore. According to reports, Watson is still at the training camp and getting in shape to play the full season this year. Whether or not that still happens is still up for debate, but there's no denying that this is a really bad look for the Cleveland Browns. Up next, Cowboys still the most valuable team in the NFL. Despite the tough years during COVID-19, the NFL is still as valuable as ever, if not more. Sportico recently released a list of the most valuable teams in the NFL right now, and it's more or less the same names with a lot more money. The most valuable team in the NFL right now, like always, is the Dallas Cowboys. There's no state on the planet that loves football as much as Texas does. And of course, the Cowboys are at the top of the food chain there. The Cowboys are believed to be worth around $7.6 billion in 2022. This places them around $700 million ahead of the New York Yankees to become the most valuable sports team in the United States. This year, the value of the average NFL team reached as much as $4 billion, which is the highest it has ever been. Only time will tell whether or not this is the peak of the NFL, or if teams will just continue to get more value with time. And finally, the NFL launches a streaming service. We've seen the NFL on network TV, cable, and numerous streaming services in the past, but now, in 2022, the NFL is launching its own streaming service for the first time ever. It's called NFL Plus, and it will be available at a price of $5 per month. This service will include all preseason and postseason games, along with some exclusive content you won't find anywhere else. However, thanks to existing deals, it won't have regular season games for the time being. But with preferences changing towards streaming rather than network TV or cable, it might eventually get regular season games as well. But for now, the rights to regular season games have been sold for the next 11 years, so it's highly unlikely that we'll ever see them on NFL Plus. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Davante was off the line with his comparison? Let us know in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See ya in the next one.